Welcome to another episode of Dad Up, everyone. Thank you guys very much for joining me. I'm excited to have this individual on. He and I have gotten a chance to kind of know each other through the social media world over the last couple of years, and he's a really great guy, and he's got some things he wants to share, and I'm super excited for him to share it because it's really critical or crucial right now for parents and college students particularly. But my good friend Jarret Freeman has joined me on Dad Up. Welcome to the show, brother.
Thank you for having me, Brian. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. When you and I were kind of talking about this idea of getting you on the show to talk about this particular topic in college, I was thinking, yeah, that's a good topic because we just dropped my younger son off for his senior year of college, and one more year, and then we're done. But yeah, it's a challenging time. It's a scary time for parents to not only drop their child off at possibly another state where from where they live, or even locally, just dropping them off and letting them be independent young adults. That in itself is scary. But then you add on top of that um, the college price or the college debt that they have, then it becomes a whole new experience. Let's just call it that. My older son went to college, and I have to say we this is kind of opening up a little bit, but we have used some of our home equity to pay for his college, and we have a nice nest egg inside the home. As far as the home value goes, we have a nice little chunk of change, and that was the purpose behind it. My younger son, he got a basketball scholarship, and so for the first couple of years he was going to college on a basketball scholarship, but then got tired of playing basketball, and we had to move him to a different college, and now he doesn't have a scholarship anymore. So it's kind of a different take. But before we get into all that, for my listeners, viewers who don't know who you are, let's touch on a little bit of back history about you, kind of how you grew up, how you got into the things that you were doing. And then also, I want to know more about your experience in the book that you wrote.
Thank you. Well, again, thank you so much for having me, Brian. Really appreciate it.
Yeah.
So, a little bit about me. I'm from the East Coast. I grew up in New York, in Queens. I now live in Hackensack, New Jersey, which is not too far from it. Big family. I have a twin brother, a middle brother, and twin sisters. So,
Oh,
my
wow.
family's pretty big. So, for me, I really had to, digest what going to college would be, but also the cost of it at a young age, just because I was the last of five. And that's how I really got into this. I didn't understand. I didn't know what that would be, what that would look like. And so that's what sparked my interest. So for me, looking at what I could do, what was actually available to me. I think one of the unique things is that there are so many resources out there, but since there are so much, the market is so oversaturated with so many resources, it actually becomes overwhelming for families and young people to digest. So the reason I wrote a book was really to congregate a lot of information, break it down for people to understand what's out there, what's available to them. But the most important thing is being able to be empowered to ask the right questions. So for me, had I had the resources that I had, if I'm able to go into a financial aid office or go to meet with a financial director at the college, I can say, hey, what's the difference between this fixed rate or a variable rate? What's available for me? There are scholarships that many universities have that they advertise, but there are some that are smaller that you can apply for to get your books covered, to get transportation covered. There are so many different things that people don't know exist. And I wanted to create an opportunity for parents and students to really be able to be empowered to ask those questions.
Okay. And this book, well, let's let everybody know what the name of the book is first.
Yes. The title of my book is The American Dream versus the American Trap: The Untold Truth of Student Debt.
Okay. All right. Well, let's dive right into that, because yes, there are plenty of people, including students, not only parents, but students themselves, that are kind of drowning in student debt. And one of the big questions that I've heard several times is, I guess I really don't need to go to college because it's just a piece of paper and it really doesn't amount to much. Really where it comes down to is my experience and what I can bring to the company or to my business. So really paying for college debt, paying for college, I'd rather just use that money to start a business or something like that. What's your opinion on that? Because that is not the old fashioned way. The old fashioned way was you go get your ticket punched and then you go get into a career, corporate America kind of job. Now, the new way of looking at things is there's a lot of youth that are growing up and going, I want to start a business. I don't want to go to college. I want to go to a tech school maybe, or I want to put my money towards my own business. What's your thoughts on that?
I love it. And I honestly think more colleges need to get on board with that, because college is not for everyone. Everyone is not meant to go to college. Everyone's not meant to be a doctor or a lawyer, but you are meant to be you. And whatever that best version of yourself is what you're meant to be. And I think that that's really, really important. If you are going to go into plumbing, if you're going to go into electrician and get certain certifications, then you should be able to do that. In parts of New York, we have a shortage of folks who have certain trade certificates, because so many people are going to college and getting degrees that they're not getting jobs in. We actually need people who have certain certifications in plumbing, in mechanics, in automobile, and we don't have those because the market for that is not there. And so if colleges begin to look at programs that they can create that actually are geared towards these individuals, that would help. I think what's happening in the country right now, which is helpful, you have companies as big as Google that are saying, well, instead of just hiring people from Stanford and Harvard or even with the college degree, I'm going to hire people who have experience. They've either developed it by taking courses online or from their own life skills, and they can actually do the work of what we're asking them. I hire them, and they will, and they are. And so it's really changing the narrative of just going to college just to go to college. You know, it's forcing individuals to ask the question of, why am I going to college? Am I going because I want an experience to party or to enjoy myself, or am I going to actually advance my skills, advance in an area where I really want to study? It's absolutely fine if you don't know what you want to do, but the collegiate experience may not be where you need to go. Maybe you need to go to a community college first, identify what works for you, what doesn't work for you, and then maybe your lane is a trade option where you can make a lot of money. You can be very successful doing that. You just have to figure out where your skills lie, where your passion lies, and marry the two together. And I think that's the gap that we have right now. We think, oh, everyone needs to go to college. Everyone doesn't need to go to college. I think everyone needs to identify where their strengths are, meet those strengths and your passion, marry them together. And I think you have a great example of what would make someone who's successful succeed.
Yeah. I agree with that. And I think back to my college days in particular. It's like I was working in a corporate America, worked for a mid-sized bank, and I knew that I needed to get my degree in order to advance. Well, the truth was I didn't need to get my degree in order to advance in my career, because I stayed with that bank for 26 years and worked my way up into management level. And it wasn't because of the degree I had. I had just a general business degree from a University of Laverne. I can tell you that my college degree had no bearing on that. My experience in being with the same bank for that long was where my experience was, where, you know, they put the weight of, hey, should we move Brian up into a higher management position? And it was because of my experience, not because of my college experience. So I totally agree with that. I think for my boys in particular, you know, we're a little bit more old. My wife's a little bit more old fashioned. She wants her boys to have a college degree, but you know, I don't know what they're going to do with their college degree. We talk now to friends of our sons that have college degrees, have since graduated, and still don't know what they're going to do. And it's like, back in the day, it was like you went to college to learn and to get a degree based on what you wanted to do and with your career. And nowadays it's like, they still don't know what they want to do. And that's okay. They're still young enough. They can still figure things out. But it's like, so you just wasted 4 to 6 years going to college, and now you're still kind of lost. And now you have a pile of debt.
Yeah. And that time is not just the one thing you're losing, the cost associated with that, especially if these students choose to go out of state. I chose to go out of state. And so the cost is even more astronomical because you're paying out of state tuition. And the grants or scholarships afforded to you, they're limited depending on where you're going, if it's state school, private school. And that's something to think about, but it's often not thought about by families or by students because they're looking at where they want to go, the experience they want to have. And these questions are things that are not being asked because I want to go to this school because, well, I like this school. I'm a fan of this school. I'm a fan of what they're bringing. And schools are big marketing, they're marketing you to come here. The thing is that whether or not you get an education, they're charging you $60,000, $70,000 in some cases a year, and you can take out hundreds of thousands of dollars in student loan debt and get nothing for it. Whereas if you wanted to buy a home, go to a bank and say, hey, I want to buy a home for $200,000. I'm 18 years old. The bank's going to laugh at you and say that's never going to happen. And so I think there's an imbalance, but it's also just we have to do a lot more educating on ourselves, and also what we're doing in high school or even in middle school, where we're educating young people to understand the fiscal decisions that they're making, how that has an impact, and really what they want and what that looks like.
Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting to me to see that the number of kids that choose a school based on their friends going there, or chooses, they don't care about the price. They don't think about that stuff. Yet parents, we think about that stuff. My boys went to, my older son went to Grand Canyon University, and he went there because it was affordable. And he got a couple of scholarships. He got an academic scholarship, and then he got a transfer scholarship from the Christian school, high school that he was going to. So it was affordable. And it's shocking to me why students in particular, they just don't think about that stuff. Money's not an issue. And we know as parents that it is.
Well, one of the things that I think that this unique phase of when you are leaving high school, going to college, it's a very big transition phase where when you're on campus, now you're in a way, you're independent. Your parents are not there. They may be further away. You as an individual are making choices for your life, for yourself. And it's a big moment. And so being able to go to college does teach a lot of life skills that I think is great for students. Life skills that you can get from studying abroad or teaching abroad and doing a lot of other things that cost way less. But I think that the collegiate experience does give you that. Nevertheless, students are not taught how to ask the right questions before they get there. So in high school, if you're taught to ask certain questions when you need to go to financial aid, or you need to go speak with an adult, or you need help, you are not going to, if you're not familiar with that level of interaction or that experience. And what happens is you go back to your parents and say, hey, look, the cost is $20,000 this semester. I don't know what we can do. And instead of going to the financial aid office and saying, hey, what can I do? Are there any scholarships? There are universities now that are doing creative programs where students can work for the university, and instead of getting paid, they get an exchange where they get some of their tuition, decreased. So it's like a work study in a way, but it's very creative and it's working. I believe one university in Texas is doing it. So there are things that you can do, but you have to be willing to ask questions, and we have to push our children to understand that, but also we have to teach them that.
Yeah. It's interesting. I'm glad you brought that up, because I think scholarships, parents that have gone through it before with some of their other children, maybe they're old, their firstborn or secondborn, they've gone through this experience. And so that when the second or third or fourth child comes along, they already know what to do. But for us, like when my older son was getting ready to go off to college, he was about a junior in high school. I didn't realize until he was about a I want to say maybe end of his freshman year of high school, of college, I didn't realize how many scholarship opportunities are out there, and they're all over the place on the internet. Now, you do have to be careful with, different links and stuff you're clicking on the internet, because there are some scammers out there and all that, but there are so many resources for scholarships. And I know you'll agree with me when I say this, but parents can have their child start to apply for these scholarships early on in their high school years. They don't have to wait until they're about to go off to college. They can start as a freshman, sophomore in high school with some of these scholarship offers, because some of them are as simple as just writing a 250 word essay. Some of them are that simple, and they get a $250 scholarship, or a $500 scholarship, or $1,000. I mean, you do that 10 or 20 times with different scholarships, it really adds up.
It does. And that is one of the biggest pieces that so many folks miss, where you just go out there, you look, and you can start early. You can start freshman year, sophomore year, and there are scholarships where you just write an essay, you say, why do you want this scholarship? The New York lottery, a lot of the lotteries, they have scholarships where they give a few $1,000s to folks just to say why they want to go to college. There are a lot of scholarships out there. I don't think there's not that's not the issue. The issue is we are not communicating this information to people in a way that's digestible for them and that makes sense. And that's really what I aim to do, to help people ask the right questions, to understand what they can do and where to start. Because it can all be overwhelming. It can be very, very overwhelming, especially if you're a young person or even a young parent. You're sending your child off to school. They're going to school. Now they're on campus. They don't know where to go. You had your orientation. You see the big buildings. You're in a place that's a little foreign to you. You want to ask for help, but you want to also feel independent. It's tough. If you hadn't practiced how to be independent, how to practice some of these things where you're asking adults who may have more information than you to help guide you in a way that, could be helpful or conducive to your own growth.
Yeah. Well, let me ask you this then. What are some of those questions? You're saying they need to know what are the right questions to ask. So are these questions that they should be asking in high school? Or are these questions that they should be asking as a freshman in college? When do we start asking these questions, and what kind of questions are you talking about that parents could relate to?
Oh, well, first, I focus on the current, the former, and the future student. So it doesn't matter which phase that you're at. So if you're someone who's a current student and you're currently in school, the question that you need to ask is, well, where is the financial aid office? What does it do for me? Or I'm in this particular major. Are there any scholarships that are earmarked for my major? There are a lot of donors who give scholarships specifically to certain degrees or certain majors or certain departments because they went there, they majored in that, and there are many scholarships that may be in that lane. What do I qualify for? What's available to me? What's coming down the pipeline that I should be expecting, that I should look out for? Asking questions like that will be a great starting point to then lead into what your next steps can be as a young person or as a student on campus, really being able to see what you can navigate or where you need to go.
Yeah. And this, going and getting this type of information or asking about scholarships, that's not something, like I said, you can start doing that as you're in your early years of high school. But even if you're in your later years of college, let's say, like my younger son is in his senior year now of college. So he's already started his senior year. He can still be looking for scholarships to apply for, even though, it may not happen until maybe the end of his senior year, and he can still use that to apply towards, expenses that he's had. So don't think that you're too late. And that's my point to parents that are out there watching this. Don't think, well, my son's already started this year, I guess we'll start it next year. No, start now. And even if he can get 2 or 3 done before his year's up, you're golden. And I mean, my son has he did get 1 scholarship, and he's already looking into some others, and that's something that can certainly help.
Yeah. And I'll do you one better. There are actually scholarships even if you've graduated. So for folks who have graduated and they're out of college, there are scholarships for you too. And I think that's often misunderstood. Many people don't know that. There
I
are
didn't know that.
Yes, there are resources and scholarships for people who have graduated. You have a specific situation, there's a site for it. And so you can write different essays, you can apply for, whether you want to do research or whether you're just a single mother or whether you're just an individual who has debt, who graduated and you need help. There are a lot of resources for folks, whether you're in school, you're about to go to school, or you have graduated. And I think it's important to ask those questions and know where to go. And that's really where I want to point people in that direction.
Okay. That's good to know. I didn't know that. And I have a couple of things that we have to take care of for my older son. So I'm going to have him look into that. I'm actually going to look into it myself and have my wife look into it so we can all get that handled. That's good to know. Well, let me ask you this. When it comes to, we just had this pandemic, right? And there was this huge, stop on college debt payments. And now it's getting to the point where come October, you're going to have to start paying on those college payments now. That parents could probably be worrying, freaking out a little bit. What would be your advice to somebody like that?
Well, my first step is you need to understand what your situation is so that you can understand how to navigate it. And I think that's the part that really scares people, because depending on your situation, you can continue to defer, or you can actually apply through certain federal loan programs to get your loan forgiven by paying certain minimums. So depending on your situation, things will change. And so when you look at things in aggregate from 10,000 feet, it's very, very confusing because your situation and my situation are not the same. And I think that's what's confusing a lot of families, is that we're talking about student debt as it relates to the 45 million Americans that it's impacting, but everyone does not have the same situation. We have similar situations, but depending on your situation, what you are going to pay and how you're going to be impacted is going to be so different. So I think the first step is, first you need to identify how you're impacted. The federal, the student aid office, financial aid, they do have a number. They actually do answer. They're really nice people, I think. And you can walk through your own situation, what you qualify for, what you don't qualify for, and what you need to do, what those next steps are. And I think that's a great place to start. Because if you're someone who's been, deferring loans and you're going to start back up in October, you're not ready for it. You may be able to still defer, or you may be able to qualify for certain benefits of things being forgiven. You just need to be able to understand your situation.
And would those revolve around, maybe the amount of income that your parents have, or maybe the amount of income that you have as a college graduate? Is that part of it? Part of the process?
Yeah, there is a type of forgiveness that's based on your debt. It's called debt to income ratio. Mm-hmm. So if you make a certain income or below a certain income, yes, that's one of them. Another one is if you work for a nonprofit, for a qualified nonprofit, 501c3 for a certain amount of time. So there are different scenarios and different areas that will put you in buckets that qualify you for certain things or different things. And so, and I talk about this because I want parents to understand that just because this is happening in October, it's coming up, you may or may not be impacted, or you may be impacted in a different way. What you can start doing now is you can call the federal student aid office, explain your situation. You can see what you qualify for. You can see what, based on your situation, you're able to do, and how they can help navigate you through that process. And that's something that I try to help coach families to really understand and be able to ask the right questions to do.
Good to know. I want to ask you this: when it comes to applying for college tuition, college debt. One question that I hear come up a lot, or thing that I hear parents talk to a lot, is should I, as a parent, apply for this debt, for this loan to pay for my son's college and have it in my name? Or should I have my son apply in his name? And the reason I say that is because a lot of it is based on income. And by the time your child graduates college, 4 years, 6 years down the road, you as a parent are probably making a whole lot more money than your college graduate is. And so making less money helps him or her into a better, situation with the debt being forgiven or reduced, whatever the case may be. What's your thoughts on that, as far as, should I, as a parent, put the college debt in my name, or should I put it in my child's name?
I'd say this becomes one of those tricky questions because it really depends on your situation. So student debt is something, if you were to apply for bankruptcy, it stays with you. It does not go away. It does stay with you. And even though the income of the student may go up, and income down, parent income may be higher, that debt is going to follow whoever that person is. Chances are most young people who are applying for a loan, they need a cosigner. And that cosigner is usually their family, whether it's the mom, dad, guardian, aunt. And so even if they're not the one taking it on in their name, they're co-signing on it. So they are ultimately responsible in some way. I think that that's a conversation between the family. You sit down and you say, hey, look, what's our plan? This is what we're going to do. This school costs this amount. What have we applied for scholarships? We have this amount, and now we have to cover this. The student says, hey, I'm going to work, or I'm going to do this. The parent's going to contribute this amount. It's a great opportunity for families to discuss responsibility with their student, with their child, because the child understands, I really want to go to this particular school. I really do. Okay, great. Well, what are you going to put in to make sure that happens? Because it can't just be on your parents or your guardian to cover that burden. And so I recommend that families have a conversation, because someone's family situation is going to be different than another person, and that's going to change the loans you qualify. That's going to change what you are able to do, whether you're a single family or you're two-family household. It really does change. So I think you start with understanding the landscape, having a conversation, and you as a family make a collective decision.
Got it. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. I think that everybody's situation is unique or different, but we all have one thing in common, and that is, college, and whether our kids go to college or not go to college. So what is the main points of your book? If parents were to get it, look it up, read it, what would you hope that they gain from reading your book?
I wrote it more of like a reference. I want parents to use it as a guide. I really want them to refer to it. I want them to go, oh, okay, wait, let me go back to chapter 7. Let me go back to chapter 12 and reread these different types of loans. Let me understand what a fixed rate and variable rate are. Let me understand what this is as I'm going to go into this meeting with the finance director of my child's school. I want parents to be able to look at this as a resource that will help them ask the right questions that they need to, that's applicable to their situation. Whether you're a single parent, whether you have a two-parent household, whether you have one child, you have multiple children, your situation changes, because I was the last of 5. And so my situation was very different because we had 4 people before me that went to school. Or if you have just one child. So I really want parents to be able to look at the information, understand it, and then look at how they can apply it to themselves. So I really want them to look at it as a reference that they can use as a guide ongoing.
Okay. And is there scholarship information in there as far as sites and stuff to go to?
Yes. I have a lot of resources. I have a lot of sites for scholarships, for resources, for loans, for grants. There's a lot of information in there for families.
Okay. Awesome. Yeah, I think back to when I went to college. One of the things that I did is I utilized my GI Bill because I spent time in the military. I was in the Marine Corps for 4 years, so I had access to the GI Bill. So my parents, I have a younger sister, but she didn't go to college. My parents didn't have to pay for college at all, and I got a 4 year degree because the military paid for it. I
Thank
have
you.
tried. Thank you. I have tried to convince my boys to go into the military so they could, but I can't do it. Yeah, that is certainly an option out there, parents. If you can feel comfortable with your child going into the military to serve the country, and you can convince them, or maybe they are interested in going in, that is a great way to pay for college because the GI Bill helps out with that. And depending on the college that you go to, can have your expenses covered. My expenses when I went to a 4 year university, private university, University of Laverne, my college was completely paid for. I didn't pay a dime
Yeah.
because of the GI Bill.
It's amazing. And that program, I talk about that too, even how it was created. It still exists now. And you have big schools like, when I went to Penn State and even smaller schools that have these programs. So if that is something that works for your family, I definitely say explore it because it's a great opportunity for one, you to serve our country, but two, for your child to get an amazing education at a place that they really may want to go to. So
Yeah.
make sure it's in the conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the unique situation that I came across was my GI Bill was paying for my college, but I also got a tuition reimbursement from the company that I was working for. So I like to say that I was sort of making money going to college. I was getting paid to go to college because I was getting the reimbursement and the GI Bill was paying for the college. So I had kind of a unique situation, but anyways, that's certainly one way to pay for college is the GI Bill, and it helped me out. What else? What else can parents get out of the? Is this a book for students or for parents? I mean, is it for both of them?
It's for I split it up for the audience is three categories. It's current, former, future students. So that does include parents and guardians too.
Okay.
But I think I wrote it well in a way that a student can understand it. So if you're in high school, you're a high school sophomore, junior, and you're looking at these things, I want you to be able to take a look at uh, resources that will help you begin to make certain decisions while you and your family are going to be going to school. If you're a family or parent, I want you to use this as a reference when you're having these conversations with your children because it's going to help you. And so it's written in a way that both can digest it.
All right. And then I want to ask you this question because I'm sure a lot of parents out there are thinking this. What about interest rates? I know that if we apply for college loans, the interest rates are now insane, and people could be freaking out a little bit that, oh no, the interest rates are so high right now. I don't know that I want to take on a student debt with that kind of interest rate. What are your thoughts on that?
That I spend a lot of time talking about that because that almost tripped me up because I didn't know what a variable or fixed rate was. And I think that it really does depend on where you're going. Some interest rates are going up, some are not, but it also does depend on what you're looking at. And this goes back to the conversation of your personal situation, but going to the school, you could say, hey, look, we have a loan from XYZ Corporation, and they're looking at offering this particular fixed rate. Does the school have anything that they can offer, even if it's a loan, but can you do a better rate? If you're looking at a big bank, they may offer you a bigger loan, but if you look at a regional a federal credit union or regional union, they are a lot of them, they want the business. So they'll typically give you a lower rate. And so really being able to shop around and not just go to the first thing, that's important. You may have regional credit unions or regional banks that are smaller in your area that would love the business to be able to give you a student loan because that's something that would work for them if they do that, and you can negotiate getting a better rate. And so being able to do that and then being empowered to have those conversations is important because it helps you, but it also helps your family because you're showing your child how you can just negotiate and they can still get what they want.
Got it. Are there any type of loans that, and I'm just thinking of this just for my own personal benefit, but are there any type of loans out there that are, that have tax benefits?
In what way?
Tax credits, whether it's federal credits. Are there any type of loans out there that would help people in that? I don't think so either. I was just asking.
No, not that I'm aware of, but I'm happy to look into it and circle back, but not that I'm aware of. No.
Okay. Okay. Where can my viewers, listeners, where can they get this book if they want to check it out?
It will be on Amazon.com and on Barnes Nobles online. And so it'll be coming out this fall, most likely this October. So stay tuned. And I really hope you check it out. Again, the name is The American Dream versus the American Trap, The Untold Truth of Student Debt.
Awesome. Well, look, Jarret, I appreciate you being on. I know that you and I have been connected now for a while, but I'm certainly glad we finally got to meet virtually face to face instead of just through social media posts. But I'm looking forward to continue this friendship, and I may throw some questions out to you for my own personal benefit, because I am in that boat and I want to learn as much as I can learn to, so I don't end up in a bad situation come a couple years from now. So thank you again for being on, my friend. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me. I really, really do appreciate it. Hit me up anytime. I love it.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, listen, guys, this has been another awesome episode of Dad Up. I want to thank my good friend again, Jarret Freeman. Make sure you guys check out his book. I'll have links in my show notes so that way you guys can see where to go to get his book when it comes out. But this book will change your life if you are going through a situation right now where you have a child in college or about to go to college, or even you yourself have college debt as a parent. This book will help you out and provide resources for you. So I highly recommend it. I'm actually going to get it myself, so that way it can help my family. So make sure you guys are checking out his social media links in the show notes below. And as always, if you haven't subscribed yet to my show, please make sure you do that so you don't miss any of the awesome guests that I have each and every week. And once again, thank you to my good friend, Jarret Freeman. And as always, I look forward to seeing you all on the next episode of Dad Up. Wow, another amazing episode in the books. So much was shared, and I'm truly grateful my guest was able to pour into you to help you elevate your dad game and really dad up. Make sure you bang that subscribe button so you don't miss a single episode. And while you're here, please don't forget to leave me a rating and a review. I always appreciate the feedback. And one last thing, don't forget, your role as a dad is one of the most important roles you have. So if you need a little help or have questions, don't hesitate to reach out to me on my website at daduptribe.com or at my Instagram page at Dad Up Podcast. Until next time, everyone, Dad Up.